Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello and welcome to Friday. Yeah, whew. It's the 6th of September. A beautiful Friday, Pittsburgh, PA. And this is the first Friday that Chris Potter is going to be joining us, although he seems to have forgotten that. Jess just ran upstairs to corral him. Oh, honest to Pete. Honest to Pete. He's the one who said, do you mind, can I move from Wednesdays to Fridays? No, say I. Always easy to deal with. Malleable. Perfectly wanting to make everybody as comfortable as possible. And, yeah. See what it gets you? An empty chair. Anyway, he should be here momentarily, I would think. So I'm a little discombobulated because we didn't have Monday because of Labor Day, and then I thought Tuesday was Monday all day, and then I took off yesterday for the Jewish New Year and thought it was Sunday yesterday, and then I thought today was Monday. I am so mixed up. We are such creatures of habit. We are such creatures of habit, I was just saying. And it wasn't even in regard to your forgetting to join us.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was in the middle of editing.
You were the person who requested this change.
I know. I was in the middle of editing an interview. I get very into it.
You were you were editing an interview.
Yeah. With the guy who wrote the book.
Which one?
Zealot. The one that got in all that hot water on Fox.com, the biography of Jesus. So
yeah,
that's coming out next week. Ooh, look, now I can give people previews of next week's issue instead.
Yes, you can. So what did you think of the book?
It's funny. It's
more like the historical Jesus, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's funny about it is, you watch Fox, you think, oh my God, this must be some unprecedented, terrible new revisionist take. And then meanwhile, it's stuff. And meanwhile, I mean, really, it's sort of more of a popular history. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that to disparage it or anything like that. I mean, it's
No, they went nuts because he was a Muslim.
Yeah.
How dare he write about Jesus?
Yeah,
right.
It's weird. So I mean, I would say it's well written. He actually teaches creative writing, and there's it kind of opens with a scene of what the sacrifices were like at the Temple of Jerusalem when it still stood and stuff like that.
What were they like?
I mean,
because yesterday in Rosh Hashanah services, the Torah portion on the New Year is always the one that gives me the most trouble of anything in that book. And that is God telling Abraham to kill his son.
Kill me, son.
To sacrifice Isaac.
Abe said, God, you must be putting me on. God said, no. Abe said, what? God said, you can do what I want. You can do what you want to, but next time you see me coming, you better run. Yeah, it's Highway 61. Yeah, that's right. There we go. Right. Oh, excellent.
Boy, that's been a long time.
Yeah.
Highway 61.
Let's not archive that part of the show.
God said, Abe, you got to kill me son.
Right.
To me, it's right there where I would, say, okay, and this is the guy I'm supposed to work. This is God. Hey, I'm going to test you here.
Right.
See how you be. Okay, right. So I was sort of thinking about sacrifice. And then there was this other thing of some woman bringing a Geez, I mean, it's just, it's very primitive, very primitive, very primitive. So what did they do?
And that's the party. I mean, it's just this sort of massive and ongoing slaughter of various animals and stuff like that. And he really puts you there. But, I mean, I think we kind of lose sight of that now, at least Christians, because I don't think we have a sense of what...
Well, the sacrifice was for, wait a minute, these were sacrifices to God of valued and valuable animals.
Yeah.
But also, are these scapegoats? Are the term scapegoat coming from the goat takes on all the sins
and you
of
send it
everybody.
out into the wilderness.
Yeah, and it dies. It's the It's the scapegoat.
No, I don't think this is, because it could be any kind of, you could sacrifice birds, I believe, cattle, the whole thing. They all get. So I think it's interesting in that sense, and you also get a sense too of kind of the political struggle or whatever. And his argument is essentially that Jesus was first and foremost. I mean, he was not the only guy about whom there were messianic claims at that time.
Oh no!
And that he was making these claims, and a lot of the burden of his claims are consistent with other messianic of those other would-be messiahs, and that what it was really about was independence for Israel from Rome, and in Jesus's case also taking on the temple hierarchy, which in a lot of ways was corrupt and complicit with Rome, and oppressing a lot of sort of the Jewish people. And that what happened in subsequent years, because people don't, I think people don't realize that the Gospels that we all read in church were written decades after he died.
They were not contemporaneous,
right? And that those writers had a different audience than Jesus did, and so they were looking for ways to play down the Jewish nationalist part of his argument in favor of this other thing, because they were trying to be a light unto the Gentiles, and also they didn't want to antagonize Rome, who had not too many years before basically just kicked a whole heck of a lot of Jewish ass. I mean, that was the end of the temple in AD 70. So that's essentially his argument.
In a nutshell. But here again, that's not particularly surprising.
It isn't, but I think I do think it's worth. I do think it's sort of worth, if people aren't sort of familiar with that stuff. And I would say a lot of critics who are not crazy Fox News people have taken issue with parts of his argument. But I do think it's worth reading, in part, actually, just to give people who don't have already a sense of what the world was like in the first century AD. What Palestine was like and what the whole situation there was. I think it's interesting for that reason, if for no other.
Indeed.
So there you go. And he's a smart guy. He also his wife is from here, which I didn't realize.
Really?
And in fact, her brother, thus his brother-in-law, is an evangelical pastor at a local church. She went to North Allegheny, so which explains it.
How odd.
Yeah.
How odd.
Yeah.
What an interesting family that would be to spend Thanksgiving.
He says, I asked him that, and he says they have terrific conversations.
Oh, I bet they do. Oh, yeah. I meant that seriously.
He's a very, I would say he's a thoughtful guy. So.
Wow. Neat. That's cool. That's a good family. Okay. Here's something a little interesting, I thought.
Okay.
Did you see that the Iranian foreign minister tweeted, first of all, I mean, does John Kerry tweet?
I don't know.
Okay, so his name is Javad Zarif. And his tweet that went out a day and a half ago said, Happy Rosh Hashanah.
The charm offensive.
Wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
No.
It's going to get ugly?
No.
Okay.
No. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
Happy Rosh Hashanah on the occasion of the Jewish New Year. And he sent that out. Now, I don't follow him.
May it be your last.
So I didn't. Well, apparently Nancy Pelosi's daughter did follow him. And so she got the tweet. And she's Jewish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she tweeted back.
Thanks.
Exactly. She tweeted back, thanks, then realized she had a few characters left. So she said this: the new year would be even sweeter if you would end Iran's Holocaust denial, sir. Mm-hmm. He tweeted back. Iran never denied it. The man who was perceived to be denying it is now gone. Happy New Year.
Yes.
Woo!
Oh, my.
Okay. Well, I just find that fascinating. And on top of that, the guy who took Ahmadinejad's place, because Ahmadinejad was he couldn't give a speech without somewhere fitting in that the Holocaust never happened. Right. Okay. So the guy who's taken his place, Hassan Rouhani, also tweets, and he said in his tweet, "As the sun is about to set here in Tehran, I wish all Jews, especially Iranian Jews, a blessed Rosh Hashanah."
Ah.
So that's from the president, and isn't that interesting?
This just opens up whole new frontiers for diplomacy.
Well, you know what?
Just imagine if
it doesn't hurt.
Just imagine if we'd had Twitter back like when we were trying to end the Vietnam War. Nobody would have been arguing about the shape of the table or whatever.
That blows me
At
away.
Hank Kissinger, Happy Rosh Hashanah. Wow.
I don't know what that means, except they're obviously trying to signal that they are not the same lunatics. They might be different lunatics, but they're not the same, and that they're maybe rational.
That's interesting.
Okay, so that gets us uncomfortably close to Syria, and I hesitate to spend an hour on it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Is that do you think so too?
But,
what
does it even matter what we have to say about it? Doesn't it just seem like?
Well, no. I think in this case it might, because Americans are getting in touch with their congressmen, and it appears that people are not. The American people don't want this to happen. I think it's all very interesting. I always find Americans. They're always reacting to something, but they're an entire, like in this case, decade removed. They're reacting strenuously to this talk of limited military engagement because the last time someone did this to them, they threw parades. Yep. They had the confetti going. They were totally into it. Shock and awe, all that kind of great stuff.
Right.
We're number one. USA, USA. And that, of course, was under President George W. Bush and Dick Cheney.
Right.
And as we know, that did not go so well.
Right.
And so now Americans are saying, with a relatively dovish, to say the least, president, actually, Barack Obama, and a dovish Secretary of State, and a dovish Defense Secretary, who are now all saying we need to do this limited engagement thing. Americans are freaking out and saying, we don't want another trumped-up war in the Middle East. And I just want to say that I am just generally unhappy with the lack of ability of people to deal with things on sort of an individual basis, to not equate the Obama White House with the Bush White House. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney wanted desperately to go to war in Iraq. They had that idea before they even trumped up the reasons for doing it.
Sure.
Barack Obama doesn't want to go to war in Syria. And I also find it fascinating. You can see I'm not doing the classic liberal line here. I also find it fascinating that there is this turnaround. So all of a sudden, Republicans who have never, in my memory, maybe you can correct me, have never been reluctant when the commander-in-chief has suggested that we need to get our boys out there and perform some military action, have never been reluctant. All of a sudden, my God, it's practically like Peacenikville among the GOP. I never saw so many hawks turned into doves in my lifetime. And I think there are very few people that are able to sort of wipe the slate clean and look at this without all this other noise in their heads screwing up their thought processes. I think the Republicans are against it for one reason and one reason only.
Politics. To screw the president.
That's right. Any other president asking him to do it, fine. But this president asking them, all of a sudden, they're dubs.
I don't know that I entirely agree with that.
You don't think?
I think there's at least a contingent in the Republican Party that actually really is isolationist, and so you're hearing from some of those folks, and in their base. So I think there's and remember the people, some of these Tea Party activists or whatever, they themselves, and I'm thinking of the people, the voters, and the noisy people who show up at town halls or whatever. Now their own motivation, yes, may just be let's screw that Kenyan Muslim in the White House. But what they're saying and what they're yelling and what they're calling up is that they want isolationism. So you have some of these folks in Washington sort of at least trying to play both those things off. I mean, I think part of when the president said let's go to Congress with this. I mean, I'm sure this is part of the calculation. Is this will be interesting to see how Republicans sort of thread the needle between, the sort of Israel, above all contingent in the GOP with this sort of newfangled isolationist wing, and let's see those two people beat each other up, and the militarists, the John Cain versus the Rand Pauls and all that stuff, and let's watch. We don't have a lot of fun in this job, but we could sit back and eat a little bit of popcorn while we watch those guys beat each other up. So I think I don't think that everybody in the GOP is necessarily motivated by that. I think there are some people who are sincere in their convictions, as mistaken as they may be in some cases.
New York Times today, don't know if you saw it, front page article on this issue, sort of, and they decided to go to a little town where Obama's hardly popular, but that was gung-ho about Iraq, and guess where they chose? Southwestern Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Waynesburg.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Yeah. So the Dateline's Waynesburg. By the way, why do they call it a Dateline when it's a place name? Okay, never mind. Dateline is Waynesburg. And they're interviewing people on the street. They're interviewing people at the college. They're interviewing people in some bar. Oh, man, the bartender is this woman who is, really into Iraq. And she is so not into Obama's action here.
Right.
And she says, he's just trying to do it because his popularity's down. All that anti-gun stuff he does has made him really unpopular. I'm thinking, good God. What is with people's heads? But see, I mean, this is the kind of thing. And then...
And that same woman was really offended when he said 5 years ago that people were clinging to their guns and religion.
Yes, she was.
That isn't true!
Congressman Tim Murphy was in the article because he went down to talk to some of these people. And Tim Murphy, who, as far as I know, was behind every action that any Republican president ever even dreamed of... Why, he's undecided on this one. See, he's one of these guys. He ain't some isolationist, but he's having trouble figuring out how... He doesn't quite know how to make this work.
That's right.
Because, in fact, his constituents don't want this because it's Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be his reason. His inclination is to do it. So, I don't know. If Obama wanted to have a test of how many members of Congress are principled people, maybe that's what he's doing. And how many do you think there might be?
I don't know. I mean, I'm still going to push back on this idea that supporting the thing is the principled position. I mean,
oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm not necessarily saying that.
I take your point. It's like what's being proposed now is not the same kind of commitment as what was being proposed.
A war.
It's a completely different thing. However, I mean, I don't think it's unfair for people to take the burden of the hard-fought, hard-won, if that's even the word, experience of the past decade and not wonder about that. I mean, I'm just struck by.
Even though it's a different administration, even though it's a different situation,
in part because it is. I mean, why do we vote for this guy? A lot of people voted for Barack Obama precisely because he had a more internationalist, less go-it-alone kind of approach to this. Well, what we've got now is the United Nations clearly won't do anything because of the resistance from Russia and China. And so we're going to go it alone.
So there's no one that can act except us.
And I just feel, I reject that. I mean, I saw an article the other day that Saudi Arabia wants us to do this. Well, you know what? Go blow up your own shit. How many? We've been selling them stuff, military stuff, for like 40 years.
I agree.
At what point do you use it? And you know what it is. You know what'll happen. We'll go do it because the Saudis are cool, and then the Wahhabis, madrasas or whatever out there, and
talk about the big bad UN.
are gonna burn the flags and talk about whatever, and they're just gonna let that proceed.
So we agree that it's a no-winner. I mean, it's such a non-win situation. Want to thank Bashar al-Assad for doing this to not only us, the world, and to gassing, of course, his own people and killing as many as he can, and sending the others into refugee camps, destabilizing Jordan, Turkey, Lebanon, and every other nation that those poor refugees can get to. And this is the bitch of being the big dog. I'm sorry.
Do you think we should go?
I don't know.
Drop some bombs, fire off some cruise missiles?
My inclination is to support Obama simply because
he's Obama.
That is correct. I voted for him. That is correct. I voted for him, and he does. It's not as if there's not an argument. Did you see? It's not as if there's not an argument. You do know.
I know there's an argument.
Did you see Nicholas Kristof's piece yesterday in New York Times? Yeah. He's a good guy. Yeah. And he comes. Kristof leads a lot with his heart.
I think that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's a good man.
Yeah.
And he cares about. He's always writing about stuff that the rest of the world doesn't give a hoot about, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about girls being sexually mutilated. He's talking about sex slavery. He's talking about, the horrors, the inhumanity of people, and how we need to do something, because if we don't, that says something about us. Well, he, of course, sees this in that light. He doesn't make any. He says, even hitting them like Obama wants to do, the odds are it's not going to make much difference. It might make a modest, at best, bit of difference. But he does see the need for some moral outrage here that has to take this form, because you're dealing with a guy who, I don't know what else can be done. What do you do? Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay.
So just throw a few cruise missiles at it.
I don't tell me. And he says this. People say that this isn't going to do anything, like you just suggested. Yeah. But he says, well, not necessarily. He said in both Bosnia and Kosovo, military intervention did clearly save lives. The same was true in Mali. Mm-hmm. Do you even remember Mali?
Yeah, sure. That wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
That was the French thing mostly.
Sierra Leone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, why wasn't there a big to-do if we intervened militarily?
Because it wasn't us.
Places?
It was mostly the French.
Okay.
Nobody cares about the French.
Okay, so the French, it turns out, are willing to do this more all of a sudden under Hollande. Mm-hmm. The truth is that there's no glib or simple lesson from the past. We need to struggle case by case for an approach that fits each situation. This is what I think most people are not doing, and I don't pretend that there is a good answer on this one. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that now, given where we are, that failure to give Obama the go-ahead truly does finish him off, and I don't see why Democrats would be intent on doing that.
Yeah, I don't like that argument.
Well, of course you don't like it.
No, I mean, I don't think that's a good reason to do. If you said before we were supposed to look at things on a case-by-case basis. So to me, that says we should look at the wisdom of this particular action and its ability to affect things.
And
but now you're saying we should look at some other things outside the case that we're supposed to
Okay, if we're just doing case-by-case basis,
yeah,
I agree with him.
You should bomb it?
Hit the son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And get out. Just do it. Bomb as many of these things as you think might make a difference. And if in doing it you manage to hit him, even better. And get out. Yeah. You're finished.
You never finished. I don't think.
Well, you're never finished if you're the United States of America.
No, but you're not going to be. Okay, so let's say. What do
you mean? Were we finished in Libya? We managed to keep it. What?
For now. I mean, check back in a year.
Well, these places are anywhere in the Middle East is like that.
Yeah, I know, but that's. I mean, and in truth, in fairness, if we did nothing, then it's likely that we'd be facing resentment for having done nothing and stood aside while people got blown up and gassed and whatever. I mean, I just think. So let's say we destabilize the regime, and then the rebels take over. Well, who are they exactly?
Oh, they're horrible.
A lot of them are.
They're horrible.
Yeah. So
and I thought Rob Rogers' cartoon today was apt. Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
Rob Rogers had a cartoon that if anybody looks at it, you feel uncomfortable. I mean, and this is why I said thanks Assad. I mean, he's put all of us in a situation that makes us sick. So all the liberals and the liberals in his cartoon are standing behind Assad saying, no, don't leave Assad alone, whatever. They're on his side on this, technically. And then there are people like me standing behind Al-Qaeda. There is no side here.
Yeah.
It's those children.
Yep.
Very little was made of the fact that they napalmed a school.
Yeah.
Did you see pictures of those pictures? There were pictures of children with their skin just burned off. This is okay. Now that, because napalm, I guess, is okay, but gas is not. I think when you're dealing with a monster, this is a monster, truly. The optometrist, Assad. How much do you?
And remember, a few years ago, he was supposed to be the more reasonable one than his father, right? That's the thing.
So I just don't know. And I've said, and I've said too, one of the things that the reason I'm standing with the Hawks on this one is because since I was a child, and I've said this, and my audience is sick of hearing it. Since I was a child, I have been troubled by how the world could have watched as my people, as Jewish children, were rounded up, or when Jewish parents put their kids on trains and sent them off into who knows where, or dropped them off at a nunnery, or gave them to a stranger and knew that they themselves were going to be killed, but trying to save their children. All that stuff, which is happening in the 30s, before the war. And I often wondered, why didn't anybody do anything? Well, now I see. I do see. This is the same kind of thing. And I can see from the United States, those poor little refugee children getting on trains, aw. Those poor little Syrians, aw. But it ain't us. It ain't our kids. It's nothing. It's just too bad. So, this to me is, I see now how it happens. And I could just as easily turn my back on those children in Syria. But I can't get past that.
I get that.
Of course you do, but
I mean, I'm a person, the kid of his own. So I get that. I guess
what do we do?
Because the flip side of that, I mean, there's a few things. One is just, on the one hand, we're supposed to go bomb some stuff, and on the other hand, you got the president saying, well, this isn't, the intent of the strike is not regime change.
No,
this is a modest
process
to degrade the process. Well, I mean, I don't know. Is that going to, how many schools is that going to save? Exactly.
I don't know.
And in fact, my understanding is that when the Syrians thought this strike was coming last weekend, they basically had they moved their military folks into schools and into places where it would be very hard to blow them up.
Right.
So, I mean, if that's the argument, look, it's like saying in 1935, if FDR said, let's bomb the Reichstag, just to show them we don't hold with that. Yeah. We don't hold with that. Do you think Hitler? Do you think that saves a Jewish child? I don't know that it does.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so that for me is kind of like, if that's the goal, if this is a humanitarian thing that we are doing, then the response should be commensurate with that. And I don't know that dropping a bunch of it's this weird thing of like, on the one hand, it's supposed to be okay because it's not very.
What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you don't have any ideas either.
But my feeling, my impulse is, when all the choices look bad, choose the one that doesn't involve dropping a bunch of bombs for limited gain. The best case scenario is this won't do much.
That doesn't stop the bombs, the other bombs, the bombs
I know.
The Syrians are lobbing at their people.
But what we're being told is it likely won't stop the bombs even if we do it, because it will continue to go on. I just have not seen this compelling rationale for what I've seen is a compelling rationale for the Syrians are gassing their own people. I've seen the compelling rationale for that. What I haven't seen is a compelling rationale that this thing that we're doing is somehow going to improve that situation.
Okay. All right. So we failed to solve it.
That's too bad. It would have been a heck of a show. The Cullen Potter peace plan. I'm giving you top billing there. I want you to appreciate it.
I do appreciate that. And here, just for...
we could tweet it out.
Yeah. Hey, Dave sent me a picture in YouTube, because you're the one who referenced Highway 61.
I was, yes.
He says, "This is me in my car.
Dig my license plate.
HWY 61. And a Mercedes.
Well.
Although it looks like your driveway needs some work.
Hey. Thanks for sending that in, Dave.
I'm just saying, a Mercedes shouldn't be sitting on a driveway in that state of disrepair.
Well, maybe that's how he afforded the Mercedes. You don't know.
That's true. All right, Dave, looking good. Like the car.
Yeah.
You don't have any trouble when you park in Pittsburgh. What's my license plate? Okay, we are so late. We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Birdbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, 60% off vouchers to Eclipse Lounge in Lawrenceville. Birdbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. Birdbargains.com.
Les Ludwig, your independent, self-financed, clean candidate for mayor of Pittsburgh. You've heard the saying, same old. If we don't change what we're doing, we can only expect the same results. Let's look at what the Democratic Party leadership of your lifetime is asking you to do on Election Day. They want you to forget that they and Ravenstall have not lived up to minority contracts and the jobs involved in it. If government promises work and jobs and wants to leave it for the next candidate, will it ever get done? How can we trust Peduto and especially the leadership when they continue to act this way? Are they hiding something worse than Harper's misdeeds? Vote November 5th and remember, same old. Embrace change and work willingly with it. Think outside the party's box. Make Les Ludwig your mayor and join his march to clean government and keeping promises.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right. Did you see that guy who's sliced his head off playing with his toy helicopter?
Oh yeah, I did see that actually.
Pretty disgusting, isn't it?
I didn't see footage. I heard about it.
Well, but disgusting but fascinating.
Like, this is like a little remote controlled.
Well, those things, those are thousands of dollars.
Well, the big ones.
Yeah, well, he had a big one.
Oh,
he had like a $2,000.
Because I was just thinking of the one my brother.
No, he had a $2,000 helicopter, and he was apparently really into this stuff. And he was trying to do a maneuver, and I guess the helicopter had other ideas and just came and essentially decapitated him.
Jeepers.
Not really. It just took apparently the top of his head off, which was more than enough.
That's the major part.
Right.
The top of your head's a very important part of it.
There aren't many creative ways to die, and I mean that sets you apart, don't you think?
Yeah, but not in a positive.
No, and you wouldn't want to. And apparently, he was a very nice guy, and
oh dear,
whatever. It's too bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well. You had a silly little piece about smell.
Yeah. It was silly.
It was silly.
Thank you for noticing. I wrote it in a kind of fever dream also.
Yeah,
sometimes happens.
All right, we needn't go into it.
Thank you.
I thought it was a waste of time myself.
Well, thanks for calling me down here today.
Well, do you know how sometimes people, when you have to write a column, how you really have one little, you got one thought. Your thought was, good God, there's this noxious flower at Phipps, and people stream by the thousands to, get a whiff of it. Who knew that if you had some stinky thing that people would yeah.
Right.
So, you could have a stinky sock museum, and people would come by the, whatever. So you had this idea. I felt like Tony Norman's column today was also like that. And I'm trying, do you remember it at all?
Yeah. Yes.
He was talking about how Syria, this was a really bad idea, right?
Right.
He didn't get to Syria till I think the last column, 3 paragraphs or something. In between, he talked about Miley Cyrus and twerking right?
In Tony's defense, if you want to be a member of the American Columnists Association, you have to write something about Miley Cyrus.
Well, he may have already done that.
So everybody.
Haven't?
No, but I'm not a member. I don't have any credentials.
Okay, I just want to say that sometimes it's so clear that you got to have a column.
Yeah.
You got to have something.
Sure. Yeah.
You got an idea. It doesn't go that far. It doesn't fill a column. So you tap dance and who's what's it and BS and whatever. Wasn't one of his best. Tone. Just telling you, buddy.
Listen to you dishing out the judgment. I'm going to go online after your show from now on and just offer an evaluation of whether I thought it was a good
all
use
right,
of
that's
an
fine
hour.
because I'm on. Listen, I have done more terrible shows than you can even. In the course of 30-some years, the embarrassing things that I have said, the horrible, mistakes, the uncomfortable moments. Oh my God! So. I remember Tony once saying something about me. He's criticized me.
No.
Yes. He said that I scream at people who are agreeing with me.
I think that's part of your charm.
He said,
why do I keep coming here week after week?
He said something like she's screaming so much all the time that even when somebody's agreeing with her, she's still screaming. She doesn't even hear them.
That to me is integrity.
Oh.
Screaming at people you agree with.
I guess so. There's some truth in that. All right, you.
Yes.
So I love this. I love these mug shots in the Post-Gazette today.
The story about the
isn't wonderful?
Gambling, the video poker.
Yeah. So the state police, rounded up a bunch of gambling folks.
Yeah.
And they're all these mucky mucks from McKeesport and I don't know, Forward Police Chief.
Yeah.
And they have wonderful names and nicknames like Eeky and Porky and
Eeky
Frog.
is the best one. Eeky is the best one.
Eeky is?
Yeah.
And Bo and Red.
Red.
So what's that about? The state itself. See, I'm sorry. This gambling stuff. First of all, I'm against it.
I understand.
Whatever it is, I'm against it.
Right. But.
So gambling's bad. Let me try to understand this. Gambling's bad when Eeky and
Porky do it.
Mm-hmm. And gambling's practically patriotic when the state is running the game and you're helping senior citizens.
Or when it's a state-sanctioned folks like the folks down on the river there. Yeah.
Or
horse races, horse tracks.
So there's lotteries. The state is the biggest runner of, numbers. Gambling and numbers there is. And then it goes after these little guys. Why? I don't get it. I don't get the video game stuff. I don't get any of this. And the hypocrisy. Talk about a stink. I mean, you leave Iki and those guys alone. What the hell?
Although, in fairness, I do support the incarceration of Frank Sinatra impersonators.
Oh, that's true, too. One of them is a Frank Sinatra impersonator. One can only imagine.
Yes. Presumably he was an unlicensed
I believe
Frank
his
Sinatra
name was,
impersonator.
He's Bo.
Is he Bo?
Yeah, I think it was Bo who was the, whatever. But really, how does the state keep a straight face when with one hand they're doing this and the other hand...
Get rid of the competition. If you want to gamble, go do it in a way that benefits seniors. I mean...
Okay, so all the gambling in the numbers that benefit seniors. Right. You know how many seniors have spent their life savings because the state says, hey, come here.
Yeah. Judging from those mugshots, a few of those guys are beneficiaries of the program, or will be in the not too distant future.
That's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a wee bit ironic, and of course, this kind of stuff never really goes away. I mean, there's always going to be somebody doing it. In fact, Jimmy Svetic, who writes for us from time to time,
doesn't have a numbers runner in their family?
Right. And
I had a numbers runner in my family, ran numbers in Chicago in the 20s.
The Greenlee family, who made Hill District culture possible to a very large extent. They were owners of the Crawfords and the Crawford Grill. They were involved in numbers running.
I make your money somehow.
Jimmy Svetic, who writes for us sometimes, is a former Allegheny County cop, and he's written about this. He always hated those vice cases.
Yeah.
Because it always meant going into somebody's living room and busting some poor old lady who was just trying to,
ridiculous.
Make ends meet or whatever.
Right. Unbelievable.
And these guys, it's a little hard to imagine. I mean, granted, you wouldn't necessarily want your chief of police.
No, the chief of police shouldn't be doing it.
And then his business. My favorite part was his business was named Back Alley Corporate or Back Alley Vending, Black Alley Vending, which is just like, why don't you just call yourself La Cosa Nostra Inc. Back Alley Vending. Well, I'm sure that's a legitimate enterprise.
And what's your corporate name, sir? That's Back Alley Vending.
I'm calling from Graftco.
Well, no, that wasn't
Money Launderers Monthly. We were concerned. We were interested if you'd want a subscription.
I just want to correct that it was not the police chief who had.
It was a.
No, it was
a former lieutenant or something.
It was somebody.
Yeah, it was a police lieutenant.
I'm
sorry.
Think the chief himself.
Yeah.
He's got enough trouble today. We don't need that. Oh my! Look at that. Now I know we took our last break.
We could go another 4 minutes and kind of.
You need to take a second break.
No, but
thank you very much. And who are you to say?
I was just thinking you could kind of stretch it out, but whatever.
Is this a new T-shirt you have on?
It's just I'm running out of shirts.
Okay, so when we're running out, what do we get?
So I'm wearing a T-shirt for another radio show. I didn't even think about that when I got
the Allegheny Front. Environment.
It's 91.3. It's or 90.5 now. It's like the environmental radio show on WESA.
When does that air? At 3 a.m. on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's like 7 a.m.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's where they put all the biggies.
Yeah.
Okay, like the environment, screw it. It doesn't even get pledges. They don't even have to worry about advertisers.
Yeah.
Can you see people desperately pledging to keep, what was that again?
I would. That's why I'm wearing this T-shirt.
That's why we need your money. Because we don't have it. The Allegheny Front Environmental won't be on anymore.
Giving a shout out to my peeps over on the broadcast center.
You're sort of their honey. They love you over there.
That's not true.
That new news guy, he's got you.
I haven't been on that show in like months. You know who's on there now all the time is Al Hoff, our film critic, is on there every Wednesday.
Yeah, she is too. They love you. I'm telling you.
Everyone loves Al.
It's true.
Al, by the way, is a female. I remember being shocked when I was introduced to him. I expected a guy.
A lot of people do.
But definitely not.
That's how she always knows somebody's bullshitting when it's like Mr. Hoff. She'll get a letter from Mr. Hoff, and she's like, yep.
Well, sure, she must get tons.
She does.
All right, we're taking a break.
Yep.
Lynn Cullen Live.
Week's Pittsburgh City paper is available now. Pick one up today for a look at plans to turn a former housing project into an urban farm. Plus, Kid Rock, Michael Franti, Darius Rucker, and A Fair in the Park. Pittsburgh City paper, available at 1,700 locations throughout western Pennsylvania. On the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
Come to Little's for all of your back-to-school needs. Little's has everything for all ages to stay in style for this upcoming school season. Check out the large selection from Doc Marten, Steve Madden, UGG, Clarks, Lely Kelly, New Balance, and much, much more. Don't forget to come visit this season's colorful handbag selection as well. Little Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
Chris, you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
There's your comic book collection, the race car bed.
I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I'm taking control over my financial life, and that feels pretty grown-up to me.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Are those footy pajamas?
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okie doke, we've got some emails in, and I thought we'd share them. Ray in Lawrenceville.
My man.
Well, we don't always.
No, but he's always
smart.
an honest.
He's always smart.
Very smart guy.
He's just gotten a little hysterical once or twice.
Jesus. Just read his statement.
All right. Lynn and Potter.
I know, it's great. I'm always.
Okay. Now it starts a little. I can understand their argument. And he's because the subject line is reasoning of the so-called libertarians. Okay. Yep. I can understand their argument for staying out of a fight that they feel is none of their business. But we have seen a besieged military regime violate long-standing world prohibitions by gassing their own citizens. Thank you. I had this in a thought, and then it went out of my head. This is a question, a good one. If treaties and moral imperatives don't make this our business, then what exactly makes something our business? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's a good question. Would these so-called libertarians who drive on state roads and live in federally supported white enclaves please tell me what a dictator needs to do to make them stand up and get involved? Mm-hmm. Maybe if he burned a Bible, confiscated guns, and aborted a baby, they would insist we get involved. Moral cowardice, cloaked in political rhetoric, is most unseemly. Okay, that's a good question. This is what I wanted to ask. If we signed a treaty that said we will not, blah, 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 tolerate, what's the point then? Why should we sign any treaties? If we don't stand when they're violated, what is the purpose?
Well,
if treaties and moral imperatives don't make, then okay, how exactly does something become our business? Now, clearly, Iraq was not our business, but they ginned up a thing that talked about mushroom clouds in Chicago or something, right? Oh, so our business is national security.
Right.
Our business is anything that can harm us. That's our business.
Yeah.
And anything that harms the rest of the world, fuck them. Is that ours? That's a libertarian stance?
I suppose that would be, yeah.
It's not very... I don't think that's Christian.
Well...
I really don't.
Yes.
I don't think it's Christian, and I don't think it's Jewish, and I don't think it's not humanitarian. It's selfish and short-sighted and whatever, but that's what it is.
I will say I don't feel a need to carry the brief for Rand Paul here, but on the other hand, these treaties, it's not, I'd be very surprised, and I will confess that I'm not conversant on the terms of the treaties in question, but I'd be very surprised if those treaties put us in the position of enforcing them.
That is
us,
correct.
the United States of America.
Sure that's true, too.
So I think... Oh,
so we'll hide behind the skirts of the other morally challenged leaders of the world.
Hide behind the skirts. I mean...
But, okay, so no one
But if these are... But it's a sort of a... I mean, not to use a legal term, but the standing. It's kind of like, well, okay, so if they violate a treaty with their own people, who kind of has standing to act on those people's behalf? Is it necessarily the United States of America? Would it not make more sense for it to be some kind of international... thing. And I totally appreciate the fact that, the United Nations is hamstrung by its structure. And if people wanted to talk about changing that, I'd be for it. I mean, there's a part of the reason we don't try to change it because we like that it's hamstrung and it advantages us.
Yeah, when it works for us.
So, and it's worked for Israel many, many times. That to me is sort of the issue is, yes, the treaties have been violated, but I don't know that the United States necessarily is in a position to declare itself the kind of unilateral enforcer of those treaties' terms.
Larry writes, I remember a number of years ago on your show that you asked the question, what would Mr. Rogers do?
About Syria, yeah.
You know what? I'll ask his wife.
Daniel Tiger sends in Daniel Tiger with the SEAL team. That's what
I wonder what.
Eat lead, meow meow.
I don't know if Fred was a total pacifist.
Yeah.
People killing children would not be something he would like. I don't know. I'll see if Joanne would know. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
On this occasion of Christmas first day without a button down on your show, I would like to reiterate something he said earlier about this situation. No, you said, Lynn, first, you said very early on at the beginning of the show that you have a problem with people not being able to separate, we'll say Iraq from Syria. All the big problems we've mucked up so far, being able to separate those.
Well, and with different commanders-in-chief and different, obviously just totally different situation.
And I would say that in my opposition to wanting to attack Syria in some way militarily, that I am not mucking it up. And this is where it goes to referencing what Chris said earlier, and I think he's reinforced. What we are about to do is what has bothered me so often about our government, which is when the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And there are things that we could do and we should try to do to help out in Syria and hold up our moral part of the world bargain that does not deal with drones, does not deal with missiles, does not deal with military action.
What can
we do? Help out the countries that are taking refugees. Give them more money. Take more refugees. Do something other than going to a military action that chances are, as Chris said once again, are going to have no effect and are just bluster.
Yeah.
Do the real humanitarian thing is why this frustrates me so much. Mm-hmm. So, okay, great show though, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. It was a great comment. What did he say at the beginning that made you laugh so hard I didn't understand?
He said in honor of Chris not wearing a button-down shirt today. Yeah. The other thing too, and this is Lynn is going to start rolling her eyes in a second at my hippy dippy perspective here,
I promise not to.
But I find I find it's a lot easier for people to spend blood and treasure and bazillions of dollars on these military interventions on behalf of people in developing nations, but we're not willing to pay the price to do other things for them. You know, I mean, there's a serious problem coming down the pike here in a decade or two about what's going to happen in equatorial regions as global climate change takes hold because of the crap we're putting into the air and have been for centuries, and yet nobody around. It's just too easy. Just bombing these other folks is too easy. But when it comes time to really adjust the way we live and to recognize these other responsibilities that we have to humans and in other parts of the world, we're just so much less willing to kind of think that through and talk. Well,
that's true. That's true. And
I think I think your caller there very rightly is pointing out sort of there are broader sort of moral obligations and opportunities for moral behavior.
No, I thought it was a great call. But for you to argue that we should, there's no way ever to get Americans to act until there's a crisis.
Right.
And so a story that came out recently is that this huge aquifer under the Plain State.
Yes, the Ogallala.
Okay, is that what it is? The Ogallala?
Yes.
And this is where the water comes from that gives water to Oklahoma, Nebraska, Texas, blah, 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 blah. I mean, this whole hunk of the Plain State. And it's going down.
This has been for years.
And they're saying, so this is the early warning. Hey, guys, if we keep using this water like we're using this water, there's going to be nothing here and the date's too far away for us to give a crap. So we won't do anything. We will not engage. And by the way, it's not something that'll fill up again. It'll take another 1,500 years for it to fill up again.
That's right.
No, we won't deal with that. We won't deal with the massive dislocations of populations of people that will, without a doubt, come about because of global warming and because of inaction like this in our own backyard.
Right.
And the caller's idea of, look, instead of just bombs, how about dealing with the humanitarian aspect? That's something we can do. I completely hear that. The unsatisfying part of that for me is that it's dealing with the result of the result of the of these heinous actions.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop them at all.
Right.
And in fact, might make it easier for Assad to do what he wants to do and chase all the people out that he wants to chase out. So, but did you see the aerial photo of one of those refugee camps in Jordan? Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't even fit on an aerial photo. It's like it's bigger than the population of Pittsburgh. Yeah. It's people just, and that's one. I'm sure that we do need to give a lot of aid to those refugees, but we'll just make more and more and more and more of them. He will.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do. I really don't know what you do. The simplest thing to me is take him out.
Isn't
it?
Is that the simplest thing? I don't know.
Oh, come on.
Well, I mean, again, you get rid of him, and then what? And then what?
Okay, so here's what we're gonna. I agree with that. I don't know. So what is the future of this region? Where is there? Okay, so you have an entire huge region, overwhelmingly Muslim.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly Arab. And there's not a stable democratic regime, and there's a few maybe stable autocratic regimes, and there's a whole bunch of tribal and the what the hell are we supposed to do?
Yeah, I don't know.
And does that become in our national security interest if a whole hunk of the globe is going kaplooey, especially where the Suez Canal is, which is I don't know. What do you do?
I don't know. I mean, there's obviously an immediate national security interest in terms of the accessibility of oil and things like that, which is probably what separates humanitarian crises in Syria and places like that from humanitarian crises in, say, Equatorial Africa, where there has also been no shortage of butchery and refugee camps, but they don't tend to commend themselves to the attention of the evening news, so we don't pay the same kind of attention at all. So I don't know. I mean, it's just a fucking mess.
That's right.
There's my geopolitical insight for the day, folks. Have a great weekend.
No, it's just that's where you. I mean, if you really start parsing it and thinking about it and really trying to say, what could we do? It is such a disaster.
Yeah.
It's not just Syria.
No.
It's that entire region. They don't have their shit together at all. At all. Can't even pretend they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
the causes for it are so
huge.
Yeah. You're talking resource curse. You're talking puppet states set up by larger powers to accomplish their own ends. You have a very young population, underemployed.
You're talking about a lot of tribalism.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of religious Sunni Shia stuff.
Yep.
Good heavens.
Anyway, got plans for the weekend?
Yeah, so I guess that's it. Somehow
Doom.
Somehow I think that, with all these intelligent people that we could have come up with something better, but you can't. You can't, and that's just it. And if I got one thing across in this hour, and I think you helped, and so did the callers and the emailers, is that this is not an easy thing. No. And anybody who comes up with an easy answer and trots out their usual easy slogans is, at best, lazy. What's at worst?
Disingenuous.
No, that's not that.
That's not bad enough?
No.
An asshole.
No. Stupid.
There you go.
Okay? That's
amoral.
No, just stupid. Stupid and lazy. And I'm not saying you wouldn't end up on one side or the other if you engaged in some of these questions that we've been wrestling with today. And it's not like you feel satisfied about, no, we don't feel satisfied. Anybody who feels satisfied with where they stand on this,
clearly doesn't know what the hell's going on.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
So, did you see the picture of Putin shaking Obama's hand?
Yeah.
And I was looking at the two hands, and they looked really tight. And I was wondering, how often do you think it happens?
Yeah,
that they're saying, "Okay, Mr. President, please just get the handshake," and and they have to smile. And I can see Putin doing this.
He used to be the KGB. He could probably do all kinds of things.
Just sort of crunching Obama's hands as much as they're both. And they both, if you look at the picture, Putin's smile is phonier than Obama's. Obama doesn't even quite look like he's smiling. He's just sort of like this. Putin has the silliest looking smile on his face. Because first of all, his face doesn't take a smile well.
No.
But anyway, I was just wondering if he was really crushing
doing that thing like dudes do. Could be.
Wouldn't that be great if in one of those situations they were going like this and then all of a sudden they're on the floor and they're wrestling? I
remember that time Bush gave Angela Merkel the little back rub?
The back rub. Oh God, that was one of those cringeifying moments in geopolitics.
So hey, tomorrow, before we forget, people who are interested, 11 a.m., Oakland, the corner of Bigelow and Forbes, a march and rally opposed to UPMC, the slogan of which is UPMC Stop Bullying Pittsburgh. So,
ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so I'll be there covering it.
Forbes and Bigelow, gotcha.
Right, so basically right out front of the Cathedral
Syria,
of Learning.
Yeah, sort of Syria Mosque.
Yeah, and I think they're going to march on up to Lothrop, where the kind of nerve center of UPMC is in Oakland. So that it'll be. I think they're going to kind of run the gamut of issues. It's about the unionization drive for the service
I think it's
workers
mostly
there.
that.
There'll also be probably, I suspect, some discussion of high mark issues and the tax question as well. So if people are interested, go there, and if they see me, feel free to say hi, because I'll be the guy with the notebook and the
I'll tell you, is this a hard-working guy or what? Yeah, you're looking forward to tomorrow because you're not going to do a damn thing. This poor scrivener and scribbler is going to be down there taking notes
on history.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good
anyway,
for you.
Bad for my family, but
thank you.
Or actually, maybe good for them too.
Get him out of the house.
Oh, God, finally, your old man's out of here.
Okay, and I just want to say this, although he doesn't give a crap. Why am I so crude?
I don't know.
I'm too old to be this crude.
That's
okay. Go Bucks! The Steelers? I don't care yet. Go Bucks!
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.